A Virginia woman says she entered a local hospital for an eye surgery, and the unimaginable happened.
Yeah, a fire in the operating room while she was awake, and it left her permanently scarred. As Scott McFarland and the News 4 I-Team discovered, experts say these types of incidents may be happening more than we think.
Chris, just 2 days ago, we were contacted and told the hospital involved in this most recent surgical fire had settled a lawsuit with the woman you're about to meet. News 4 was asked by the woman's attorney not to air the interview, even though they came to us about this potential danger and sat down willingly for the interview. We decided, in the interest of public safety, it was a story that needed to be told. A warning, some of these pictures might be disturbing.
Rolling into the operating room normally brings anxiety and nerves. But this is probably the last thing a patient worries about. The News 4 I-Team found each year hundreds of fires happen during surgeries across the country. Beverly Wilson says it happened to her in 2013.
I remember everything. Really? I was wide awake.
She went in for a biopsy near her right eye under a local anesthetic.
Next thing you know, he clicked the tools and it went shh.
Did you see anything? Did you?
Oh, I saw a fire.
Her complaint, filed in a new lawsuit against Inova Fairfax Hospital, and the surgical team says when the doctor began using an electrocautery device, the drapes around Wilson's head and her face caught fire.
Pretty much from my eyebrows down, and then from my cheeks downward, right around my mouth, like where you would put that, the oxygen mask. That was definitely the deep third-degree burns.
She said she's endured skin grafts, plus a full year of corrective surgeries.
You never want to experience that pain ever. You know, like when you burn yourself with an iron, keep that iron on your hand, and that's what it feels like.
The FDA and the Joint Commission, which researches surgical fires, say up to 650 happen each year across the U.S. Those agencies say the numbers are likely higher because reporting is voluntary at the federal level.
Every day I feel that my life is never going to be normal.
It's been more than 10 years since Rita Talbert survived a surgical fire. It happened during a thyroid procedure.
I remember waking up and I had all of this stuff on me, and I couldn't figure out what was going on.
And since that day, 18 additional surgeries. Another planned this year to mainly remove scar tissue around her mouth and chin.
I cannot eat unless I hold my mouth closed, because it falls out.
Rita's incident also happened at an Inova hospital at the Alexandria campus, according to Beverly Wilson's attorney.
I still get angry. Sometimes I feel like just going up and stand in the hospital and say, look at me, look what you've done. And I'll be like this for the rest of my life.
According to Beverly's complaint, after Rita's incident, Inova took steps in 2008 to prevent OR fires, including discontinuing use of oxygen masks and lowering oxygen levels and requiring a preventative checklist before procedures. But Inova told the I-Team there is no absolute elimination of oxygen masks and that it can be required or even preferred by the patient.
And this didn't have to happen. It really didn't.
Beverly's complaint claims safety steps needed weren't taken during her surgery.
We don't want what happened to Rita Talbert in 2005 and what happened to Beverly Wilson in 2013 to happen to somebody else in 2016.
The I-Team reached out to the defendants named in the case, including Inova. They said they couldn't comment on matters in litigation. In court filings, they have denied many of the allegations. And just this week, her attorney says the hospital has settled the lawsuit with Beverly.
And I just had to get to a place where I had to accept my face and move on.
We also asked Inova about Rita Talbert's case, but they wouldn't comment, citing privacy issues. She settled a lawsuit after her fire. Inova did tell us its Fairfax campus subscribes to the FUSE program, which offers training for the safe use of surgical devices to reduce fires, but wouldn't provide any specifics. Tonight at 11, our investigation continues as we uncover other cases and why some state health officials admit they didn't even know about these surgical fires. Scott McFarland, News 4 I-Team.
Tonight, a News 4 I-Team investigation reveals a series of frightening cases. Local patients burned by flames while on the surgery table.
Scott McFarland and the I-Team found even the government admits it's happening more than they know.
We made a long drive up a remote hill in Stafford County to find Rita Talbert.
It's nice and quiet back here.
Talbert rarely leaves home these days.
He said I would have to have operations off and on for the rest of my life. So.
And you have.
And I have, yes.
More than 10 years ago, Talbert went to the hospital for what was supposed to be simple thyroid surgery. She woke up days later in intensive care and eventually saw herself in a bathroom mirror.
And when I got to washing my hands, I looked up and I seen what I looked like, and I just went out. I mean, I was screaming because I couldn't believe it.
The injuries caused by a fire when an electrical surgical tool ignited oxygen that had pooled under a drape she was wearing. She sued and received about $1 million in damages and has withstood 18 surgeries trying to recover.
And I'll be like this for the rest of my life.
A series of local patients tracked down by the NEWS4 I-team tell similar stories. A freak scenario in which some kind of heat source, oxygen, and chemical ignite while the patient is under the knife, an estimated 65% of the time by the patient's head or upper body.
Her face just caught fire?
Her face ignited.
Kathy Reuter of Maryland says it was her mother, a former nun, a grandmother, who suffered 2nd and 3rd degree burns on her neck, back, and eyes in an incident in 2002.
It was really bad. It changed her life.
Vince Anthony suffered 2nd degree burns on his face and hands on the operating table at a local VA hospital.
It's just been hell, you know.
He'd actually gone in for knee surgery when the doctor recommended he also take care of a lesion on his head.
When she showed me the mirror, it was just bad.
Anthony sued too and says he settled for $50,000. Beverly Wilson just this week settled a lawsuit against a Virginia hospital, her attorney says. It said she was permanently scarred when fire engulfed her face during eye surgery in 2013 in Fairfax County.
The NEWS4 I-team wanted to know, how often is this happening? We found out in the state of Virginia, nobody's keeping official count. The state's health department tells us it does not require hospitals to officially report surgical fires.
In fact, when we asked Virginia's health department if it knew of any recent incidents, including Beverly Wilson and Rita Talbert, they said no. Maryland does require fires be reported and keeps count, reporting 13 fires in operating suites in the past 10 years, with only minor injuries. D.C. also requires fires be reported and told the I-team there have been 2 since 2005. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration says medical providers are encouraged to file a voluntary report if there's a surgery fire. But we found the agency actually farms out oversight of surgical fires to a medical association called the Joint Commission, which says it estimates up to 650 such fires each year. But it admits many of those incidents might go unreported.
It takes seconds to evaluate if the procedure you're doing on a patient is at a high risk for a surgical fire.
Concerned about a lack of government oversight, Kathy Reuter began an organization to raise awareness, hoping to prevent more fires. Fires that forever changed the lives of patients like Rita Talbert. Scott McFarland, NEWS4 I-team.
We did check with local hospitals to see which conduct fire drills to train and prevent surgical fires. Their responses just posted on our NBC Washington app. Click on investigations, and there you can also see what kinds of questions you should be asking your doctor before surgery.